Okay, moving on to question 3. So first I want you to consider some of the examples here. If we have, for example, -3 squared, this is the same as -3 times -3. So you need to know that here with the bracket, the base is -3. This is why the -3 is being multiplied by itself 2 times to get +9. Or I can say that it's, +9 or just +3 squared, right? So this is what I want you to see. When you have a negative base raised to an even power, your answer will just be positive. Negative base raised to an even power would or will produce a positive answer. So for example, it doesn't have to be 2, it can be 4, it will still be positive. It can be 6, or even something much bigger like 100, it will still be positive. So as long as the exponent is positive, is even, and we have a negative base, our answer will just be positive. Another one that I want you to consider is a -3 squared. So this time, you need to know that the base is only 3. Because there's no bracket, we like to call that negative just a coefficient. So the base is just 3, not -3. This negative is called a coefficient. So we have a coefficient of, this will be -1. There's just an invisible one, the one we just don't write that out. So in this case, if we write this in factor form or in product, this will be -3 times 3. So only the 3 is being multiplied by itself twice. The negative is just there in front of the entire expression. So your answer will be -9 or just -3 squared. Right? So remember to note the difference. So in this example, the coefficient is negative. And it stays there. Right, so this is just staying there, just a negative. Another one that I want you to consider is, what if you have -3 raised to the power 3? Well, this will be -3 times -3 times -3. So with the bracket, the basis will be -3. We just multiply 3 times. And we will still have negative, right? When you have 3 negatives multiplied together, your answer will still be negative. So a negative base raised to an odd power will produce a negative answer. Okay, then the last one that I want you to consider is, what if I just have -3 to the power 3 like that? Well, the negative is still the coefficient, it just remains there. So in this case, the answer will still be negative. Okay, so now with those concepts in mind, we can go ahead and do question 3. So 3a, we have a -a to the power 30. Now, we were told that a is positive. If you look at the top, a is a positive base. So because the negative is a coefficient in this case, so it would just remain there, right? So your answer would just be negative. B, negative a to the power 30 is the same idea. This will still count as a coefficient. The a is still just the base. So this will also be negative. C, C. Negative a to the power 30. Remember, a was positive. Now, if you add a negative, it becomes a negative base. So you have a negative base raised to an even power. That's why the answer is positive. D, negative a to the power 30. Same idea, negative base even power will be positive, but we still have a negative coefficient in front. So negative times positive is going to be negative. E, negative a to the power of 25. Again, this negative will just be a coefficient. So yeah, it just stays there. Your answer will be negative. This is the same with F. This negative here is just a coefficient. So it stays throughout to the answer. That's why our answer is negative. G, negative a raised to the power of 25. We have a negative base raised to an odd power. So the answer is negative. Same idea, negative base raised to an odd power. This will give us a negative answer, but we still have a coefficient of a negative. So this time negative will be positive. I, we have a negative base raised to an even power. That's going to be positive. J, we have a negative base raised to an odd power. Negative base raising to an odd power will be negative. And that's it for question 3. I'll see you in question 4.